In this video, we will learn the use of logical functions if and. We want to allocate invoice ages based on the invoice date and the current date, so that the difference between the current date and the invoice date is calculated on column D. We would want to count to the column that contains its age, that is between invoices that are below 30 days to invoices that are over 120 days. To get started, we will have the current date on cell A1, and the current date is equals to today, so that this refreshes every day. We calculate the number of days passed by subtracting the current date. I lock it with absolute reference minus the invoice date. Then enter to get the number of days here. Once I get the number of days, I want to bring in the invoice amount for any invoice that is below 30 days. So I'll use the simple if is equals to if, open the bracket, if this number of days is less than or equals to 30, then I'll bring in the invoice amount. Otherwise, value if false, I bring in 0. Then press enter and copy downwards. The next is use a combination of if and function, because the if alone does not give us the option of inputting multiple number of logical tests. So the first step, the first logical test is to evaluate whether this number of days is greater than 30 days or the number of days passed is less or equals to 60. If the two conditions are met, then I'll bring in the invoice amount. Otherwise, value if false, I bring in 0. Then I copy this downwards. We already have about 4 invoices that are between 31 to 60 days. The next is to evaluate invoices that are between 61 to 90 days. I'll write is equals to if and if the number of days here is greater than 60 and the number of days is less or equals to 90 days, value if the two conditions are met, then value if true, I'm going to bring in the invoice amount. Otherwise, I leave it blank or 0. Then copy this downwards. We do for 91 to 120 days if and if the number of days is between 90 days and 120 days, less or equals to 120 days, value the invoice amount. Otherwise, I leave it blank or 0. Then copy this downwards. Finally, on 120 days, because we want to evaluate days that are over 120, we'll use the simple if function by typing if the number of days here is greater than 120, then we'll bring the invoice amount. Otherwise, value if false, we bring it as 0. Then enter and bring it down. We sum these numbers from 31 to 120 days just to make sure that our invoice amount is equivalent to our total here, so that we get 6,588,643, and this number must be equivalent to this number. Thanks for watching.